Well, welcome back to Stellar Sessions. I am your host today, Sharon Evan, and in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing China and what now. So we've just come back from the Lunar New Year holidays or Chinese New Year holidays, whatever you want to call it. At the time of filming this, it should be the 1st or 2nd of February. So your suppliers should starting, your manufacturers should be starting to open back up. But that doesn't mean that everything is all fairy tales and unicorns. So in this podcast, I want to discuss what's going on in China to the best of my ability, because when you're not physically there, it's a little bit different. You have to trust your resources. And it's very much in Chinese culture to show as if everything's okay in China. I do have an amazing relationship with my sourcing agents and with my manufacturers and with my lawyers in China, and also some friends who live in China. But I still feel like there are some things that aren't 100% being told, I guess. My manufacturers and my sourcing agent, who I have an amazing relationship, they are sharing things with me, but I do feel like there's a little bit of like belittling how serious some situations there are. So, first thing I'll say is your suppliers should be starting to open back up this week, and therefore, you may want to start reaching out to them. And just don't forget to also ask, hey, how was your holiday? I hope you were well. Did you have fun with your family? What did you do? Show that interest. That can go a really long way, and your suppliers will really, really appreciate it. You don't have to straight away get into business. I always do this with my inspection company, with my suppliers, manufacturers, my sourcing agents, even my lawyer. He always sends me Happy New Year. I always send it back to him. He even knows when I celebrate the Jewish holidays. He always sends me, and I send back to him all the Chinese holidays. So what I'm trying to say is it goes a long way to have that extra personal relationship with them beyond just business. Because when you need something, when you have that type of relationship with them, they will go as far as they can in order to help you as well. And also it's just great to be a human being who cares about others. Anyway, so life isn't easy right now in China, economically wise, COVID outbreak wise. And I just want to remind you guys that, so just remember that. So let's talk about things that we can expect coming back from Chinese New Year and some things that we can prepare for. So the first thing, and I would say probably one of the most important things, is quality control and an increase in defect rates. So before Chinese New Year, workers were under a lot of pressure to complete their orders with a really, really strict time limit. And now add to that all of the COVID outbreaks and the tight deadlines that they had, and the large number of workers that either were working overtime or were unable to come to work because of COVID, etc. This basically is like a recipe for an increase in defect rates, right? So even before Chinese New Year, I hope that you had, your quality control in place. And I just want to say, you should always be having inspections done no matter what. You should always have some sort of quality control in your business. But of course, even more before and after Chinese New Year, this is something that is an absolute must. So that was before. Coming back from Chinese New Year, once factories are reopening, factory workers may not be coming back at the same time, and some may not be coming back at all. So during Chinese New Year, coming back, a lot of factory workers don't go back to work. Now add to that also the COVID outbreak, which is all over China. There may be even more workers not coming back to work. So this may cause your factories to need to quickly replace workers. And when you're quickly replacing workers and putting them on production lines, this means you've got basically somewhat untrained staff creating products. And that, again, is a recipe for defect rates, right? Because a lot of them are going to be cutting corners, and this could, lead to issues. So the number one thing that I can tell you to do coming back from Chinese New Year is, especially for the next month or 2 months, even 2 months at least. Make sure that you even increase your AQL standards, meaning, if you were only to check, I'm just going to try and make that numbers easy. Let's just say out of 1,000 units, you have 200 checked. Maybe it would be a good idea to have 500 checked, right? You can speak about this with your inspection company. Sometimes inspection companies don't see that there is a need to do an increase as well. I would go with your gut feeling. I know that sometimes when people hear me say that, they're like, how can I know? How can I know? Through your communication with your supplier, sometimes if you've got a good intuition, you're able to check to get a feeling of how, the workers that are coming back, have they come back? Is there chaos? Sometimes you can't tell. It depends. I can sometimes tell, just from the way that my one of my suppliers speaks. I've got a specific supplier of mine in mind where I just know that there's chaos going on. And then I always pump up the amount of the AQL standards, and the amount of units that we check. So that is probably the number one tip I have for you: quality control, an increase in defect rate. So an increase in defects usually always happens before and after Chinese New Year's. I shouldn't say always, but in many, many scenarios does happen. So make sure to take that into consideration and do with that whatever you see fit, basically. Okay, if you want to check more units, check more units. If you want to have accept a lower defect rate than what you usually would do, you can do that. I have a great relationship with the inspection company that I work with. They're called BD Inspections. And I communicate with them and they help me to also make these decisions. So there's that. The second thing is that there may or may not be delays. The truth is we just don't know right now, because here's the thing. On the one hand, demand has gone down quite a lot. On the other hand, there's a lot more issues, right? For example, COVID. So it's a tough one, but sometimes after Chinese New Year holidays, there can be delays. As I mentioned earlier, some workers don't come back from work, which means that now factories need to start looking for new staff. This can sometimes delay also manufacturers from opening up. Add to that the current COVID outbreak. There could be delays. And if there are delays, then you want to make sure that you know about them. So make sure that you're communicating with your suppliers and asking them these questions. I know you've just come back from holiday. When are you going to start working on the purchase order that I put in 2 weeks before Chinese New Year? What is the ETA, etc. Make sure. I personally also have contracts in place as well. I have what my lawyer calls, I think it's called a general purchase order agreement, where we have a general purchase order agreement and an actual purchase order agreement for every single order. So in the general purchase order agreement, it's one in general talking about what happens on every single order if this kind of defect rate, if they don't make it on time, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Of course, we're also humans, and we can also be understanding. If my supplier comes and says, look, Sharon, we've got some issues and we're not going to make it by this and this date, we're going to need a couple more days, I'm understanding and I have no problem with that. But if it's now a month or something like that, that's a problem. And therefore, best thing you can do is to communicate with them, have preparations in place of what happens if that happens. So, do they need to give you some sort of discount? Whatever. It's between you and them. So that was the first thing, was quality control. The second thing was delays. The third thing is shipping. So prior to Chinese New Year holiday, usually it's common to experience an increase in freight costs and for there to be shipping delays. This year, I think for the first time that I can remember in a long time, or maybe, in a long time, not ever, there was no noticeable uptick in pricing. and there was minimal disruptions in shipping schedules. I didn't like if I had an order that was last minute, it was fine. There was no increase in pricing. Usually there's at least a couple of dollars. There was nothing this year. So following the holiday, or also there's usually a tiny little bit of a brief surge in demand. So usually there's also a little bit of either an increase or delays. This year, I don't really think it's going to happen. I also spoke to Rafael Albaz, the CEO of Unicargo, which is the shipping company that I work with. And he also doesn't foresee it happening. Of course, nothing is 100%. So there could be because, now I'm just saying maybes. There could be that because of the outbreak, there could be that less workers make it to ports or whatever it may be. That could happen. Something that I think, that will definitely happen there'll probably be blank sailing. What blank sailing is when a cargo ship, skips a port and goes to the next port. Now, if that happens, then that can cause major delays. So that could probably happen. Maybe won't be a huge, deal to you because they're usually smaller ports. Maybe they will. I don't know. I'm just putting this out there. But I'm going to continue to monitor what's happening with shipping because it's never been so quiet that I can remember, at least from like 5 years going back. Well, at least 4 years, let's just say going back. It's super quiet. On a shipping level, no increase, no delays, everything's normal. That's how it was before, right? I haven't sent any stock out yet after, so I don't know 100%. But it could happen. There could be delays. You need to prepare for it. You need to keep in touch with your freight forwarders. You need to ask these questions. There could be an increase in pricing, and maybe there won't be. I don't know, and the truth is we're just going to have to wait and play it out. But you need to keep in touch with your freight forwarders and ask these questions. So there's that. I do want to put a note on shipping right now. I've noticed that in the last at least the last year or two, a lot of freight forwarders have suddenly popped out of nowhere. A lot of these freight forwarders, you need to know that what they're doing is they're drop shipping their services. So they're using other forwarders to do what it is that, they're doing and then putting extra price on that and then charging you. And a lot of these forwarders are extremely dodgy and unprofessional. And I can see it also from engagement in other Facebook groups, not mine because I don't allow forwarders in there. But I can see some dodgy shit going on. And basically what I want to say is you don't want to focus on the lowest price possible when it comes to shipping. What you want is a forwarder who's experienced, who's reliable, who's creditable, and one who can help you to develop a plan that kind of meets, your needs that are both short-term and long-term, one that can help you to also optimize your shipping to the best of their ability as well, and to make it as profitable as possible for you. And this is something, I'm the type of person when I find someone who I can work with, that I have a great relationship with and I can build a long-term relationship with, I stick to them. I'm not consistently jumping from different forwarders. I've been working with Unicargo, I think, for at least 5 years. And when I need something, they're there to help. So what I'm trying to say is be careful with the type of forwarders you're using right now. The shipping, imagine this. So they make, let's just pretend that most freight forwarders make, let's just say 10%, okay? During COVID, 10% was heaps, right? For at least a year, containers were costing 17 to 25K a container, when prior to COVID, they were costing about 4. So that 10% was huge compared to how it has gone back now, right? Shipping prices have gone back to pre-COVID. So I'm seeing that a lot of freight forwarders are like scraping for work. They're just trying to find as many, new clients as possible. And that can also mean cutting corners, and you need to be very careful. And therefore, you want to make sure that you're working with a reputable forwarder, one that you can trust, etc. I personally use Unicargo. Something else I want to just say, with what I said earlier, that there may be shipping delays, there may not be. I would just have like a buffer budget for the miscellaneous that could happen. There could be delays, and if there are delays, it's usually on us. You need to have a little bit of a buffer budget. This is something that is important. So I would just say that when it comes to a shipping, have a little bit of a buffer budget in there just in case, so that you don't have surprises later. Now, not related specifically to Chinese New Year, but in general, some tips from me now, 2023, coming into, your next few orders. The first thing I want to say is this is a great time for revising for efficiency. Just looking closer at your products and trying to identify like opportunities that you can optimize. If there's ever a good time to do it, it's definitely now. So what that could look like, for example, could be like in your packaging, for example. So can your packaging be made smaller, right? Reducing the size of your packaging can not only allow you to fit more units into a single carton, but it can also help you to lower your FBA fees. So for example, maybe you have packaging that you could reduce by 2 centimeters. Maybe you have packaging that if you change the shape of it, you could have more units put into a carton, and therefore that, optimizing your shipping costs. So go back and have a look at the size of that. Could your packaging also be changed to be more cost effective? So what I mean by that, for instance, let's just say if you sell a gift box, and the gift box you've been selling up to now in a really amazingly beautiful, let's just say rigid box. Those are the types of boxes that are similar to, let's just say, the iPhone cases, but let's pretend that you're selling a gift box, a woman's gift box, so yours is bigger. And it's an expensive gift box. It's a good couple of dollars per gift box. And this is me speaking from experience with someone I was working with, or still working with a gift box that they sell. And the box is a rigid box, and it's a very expensive box. And I came back and I said, look, maybe it's a good idea to change it to a paper box, but to still have an amazingly beautiful, stylish design. And when we looked into that, it's a good couple of dollars difference, or at least $1.50 difference. And when you times that by thousands of units, it's a lot of money. So also have a look at that. Now the question could also be, yes, but what about the wow factor? Sometimes you can still have an amazing wow factor with a paper box type of packaging rather than a rigid box, and just have an amazingly beautiful design on that. And then another thing is to reevaluate your product materials. So, when we're developing products, it's common for us to believe that, certain materials are absolutely essential for a success of a product. But once we actually launch the product, we can discover that these materials may not be as crucial as we thought. We can see that through the reviews that, no one mentions it or whatever. And I'll give you an example. So let's just pretend that I'm gonna stick to the women's box as an example. So let's pretend that you sell a gift box, a specific gift box for women. And in there you have a leather notebook cover. So you've got a notebook and the cover of it is made out of leather because for whatever reason from your research, it made sense for the type of theme that your box has. But if you would have had fake leather or faux leather, it could have been a lot more cost efficient, right? It could have been a lot more cost effective, at least $1 or so cheaper. Now imagine if you have, not just a notebook, but also, I don't know, let's just say a wallet in there as well. And the wallet's also made out of leather, but literally no one out of the hundreds of reviews that you have is speaking about, specifically that. You can still have high quality fake leather, right? So even just making that type of material change can bring down your costs by quite a bit. Or let's just say stainless steel, right? There's different levels of stainless steel, and sometimes products don't need to be the highest. I think it's like, not highest, let's just say like 310, something like that, of stainless steel. Sometimes it doesn't need to be that. It could be, for example, 210, and it's still perfectly functional for the type of product that you sell. This is just examples, obviously. Sometimes you may have some sort of wood and you have a really, really expensive wood, but maybe if you changed it to, composite wood or structural plywood, it would bring your costs down. Now, you know your products, not me. I don't know what you sell. So when you know what your products are, you need to come back and say, well, is there some way I can optimize within my products, right? Can I bring down the packaging costs? Can I change the material without it impacting the quality of the product where the buyer wouldn't even know, right? And sometimes you can come back and say, hey, I've brought my product cost down by $3. I've brought my cost down by $4. I've been, by just changing the packaging, I've been able to fit, 20 more units into a carton, 10 more units into a carton, 5 more units into a carton, whatever. All of this adds up, especially at scale. So make sure that you're doing that. And just remember that, by revisiting your products and making small optimizations, you're going to be able to improve your bottom line. So, and all while still continuing to deliver quality products to your customers. I am not telling you to reduce your quality of the product. I'm trying to say, can you keep the same quality but reduce your cost? Right? And many times the answer is yes. So you need to go back and have a look. So we spoke about quality control. We spoke about the possibility of delays. We spoke about shipping. We spoke about this would be a great time to revisit your products and see where you can make small optimization. For today, I think that's enough. I'm going to wish you all a kick-ass rest of your Q1. And I will see you guys next week. And if anyone needs me, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, official Sharon Evan, or just Sharon Evan. You can reach out to me through my website, sharonevan.com. And as of next week, I will be also going back to weekly tutorials and videos on my own YouTube channel, Sharon Evan. So make sure to subscribe to that as well if you don't follow me there. And that's it. I'll see you all next week. I hope that you have an amazing